Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today we are taking a look at the Gear-Falcon Flight Control Panel FCP-182 for the Cessna 182. That's what it's built around. This is a fantastic product. Today I'm going to show you guys why. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future updates and future guides that will be coming down the road. Link to Patreon can be found in the description below. Okay, so first off, guys, here are all of the parts and everything that came with this particular kit that was given to me for review. As you guys can see, they are very well constructed. Everything looks nice and clean. Even got an awesome t-shirt out of the deal. You can purchase all of this stuff from their website. That right there is a trim wheel that you can buy all by itself if you don't want the rest of the kit, which we'll talk about that later on and the advantages of the trim wheels and the way that they are built. First thing we're going to do is we're going to assemble everything. And I'm going to show you guys how easily it all comes together. All right, guys, so first let me give you a quick tour of everything that we have here going on. First off, all of the three axes are push and pull only. You can't turn them, but what I do appreciate about it is, and I'll show you guys where to later on in the video, is you can actually adjust the tension on each one, which is really, really nice. And then obviously after we install it and get it all configured, I'll actually show you guys how I configure it using spad.next. And you don't need spad.next, that's just my personal preference when it comes to doing these controller setups. So there underneath, you can see the three holes for each of the screws. There's going to be one hole per axis. And as long as the axis is pushed all the way in, you can see those screw there. That's how you adjust the tension of the particular lever that you want to increase or decrease. Now you can make them very, very loose to where, you know, they just slide and fall right out. Or you can tighten them up, which I like personally. I like a nice firm tension when it comes to the way that I do the axis. Now you can see that when I pulled that back, that screw head went away. So you do have to make sure. Now the slot here that I'm showing right here is on top and bottom. And what that allows is for the desk mount to be mounted either on the top or on the bottom of your control axis. So you can either have your control set above your desktop or play area or beneath it. And for me, I did an under desk assembly, which you guys will see in a minute. For the trim wheel, I really, really enjoy the trim. It mounts, just this particular version mounts to the side of the throttle base, as you guys saw at the beginning of the video. It's got a very easy 3-prong connector. And I do believe, if I remember correctly, that's actually going to be changing in later releases of this particular configuration. But again, it's very, very easy and it's very, very nice looking. So I really it doesn't bother me one way or the other. This is the piece that actually slides onto the trim wheel and then mounts to the side of the throttle, which we'll be seeing all of this in a second. I'm going to show you guys how it all comes together, so don't worry about that. It is a very, very fast process. The trim wheel itself moves very, very nicely. It's got a couple of spots where it starts to stick, but nothing that you notice once you're up and flying. I think the reason why I was hyper focused on it here and noticing all the little sticky points and the tension of plastic on plastic was simply because I was sitting here doing what you guys are seeing on the screen. I was actively focusing on it. When we get into the video later on, we'll actually be in Microsoft Flight Simulator using it, and I didn't notice it at all. It worked just fine. I love that it's got that center mark, and I'm going to show you guys how to configure all of that later on as well. Again, I'm going to be using SPAD. Here's the desk mount, guys. It's got a quick latch system. You pull the tab up and slide it back to take it off. You slide it in, and that tab at the end will lock into place, and then it's just got a tension screw on top of it. I do have a couple of issues with the tension screw, which I'll be showing you guys later on in the video when we actually get up into the aircraft. Okay, so at this point, we're just going to begin the installation process. You take these two screws out of the side. These would allow that side bracket to mount in order for the trim wheel to obviously stick to the side of the throttle. This is so quick, guys, and so easy. You know, the developer messaged me and he said, you know, in the later releases, you won't have to assemble anything. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, why? So very simple. You do need to take the center screw out of the trim wheel in order to mount all three pieces together. Again, this is sort of one of those you just sort of watch the video and see how easily it goes together. It took me no time at all. I think the hardest part was making sure that I kept my hands and everything inside of the camera view. As you can see, I'm very much so still learning how to do this. I hate doing videos like this just because I feel like so it just slides right into place. But the first thing we're going to actually have to do is we need to mount the two side ones onto the throttle first. So I'll show you guys how we do that right now. And those are just with those two screws that we took out in the very beginning. And by the way, they came with the screws into place. So there's no guessing game of what goes where. I actually really appreciated that. It made the assembly process very simple to understand. So here I go. I'm going to do my best to keep this inside of the camera view for you. Line up that first one. It's a real quick couple of turns. You'll feel it tension down. Now remember, it is plastic, guys, so you don't want to overstress it, over tighten it. Just once it goes snug, that's all you need. And that goes with any plastic parts, okay? You don't want to be cranking down on plastic. It doesn't have to hold 900 pounds of pressure. Just keep that in mind, okay? Because otherwise you could very easily basically pull the screw right through. So at this point, we're going to slide the trim wheel onto the mount. And then we take that screw that we took out earlier of the trim wheel, slide it into that slot back there, right back in the center. Couple seconds. Now this one, it will feel like it's just going forever. It is kind of a long, fine threaded screw. So it is going to take a minute. But once it goes into place like this, you just couldn't ask for an easier configuration. Boom. Just a quick quarter turn, call it done. We're going to take our prongs, plug them into the bottom. And you want the pins facing out like you see there above the throttle. Okay. And that's all there is to it for the assembly. The last step we have here is just to determine which way we want to orient the desk mount. Now, again, as you guys saw in the beginning, I like to go with it under the table. So you just pop it into its groove. And then I'll show you guys. You guys can see the locking tab that I showed you guys earlier sticking out the back of it. You're going to push the mount forward, and that's it. And to take it off, you simply lift that tab up and slide it back out, and it comes right off. Very, very simple construction. And then the only other thing that you have left to do is to plug in the 10-foot USB cable that's provided, and you're good to go. And again, I cannot stress enough how grateful I am that there is a 10-foot USB cable. We have another review coming up this week where I purchased a couple of MFDs for DCS World that we're going to be taking a look at. And one of my biggest complaints, unfortunately, was like the power cords for it were so small. Real quickly, guys, as you can see here, this is the same 10-foot USB cables required for the standalone trim wheel if you want. As far as I can tell, the design is identical, other than it just mounts by itself as it doesn't have the throttle assembly with it or the engine performance assembly. But it operates the same way. Again, very, very nice design. I love the logo embedded into it. And once again, I did want to give a big shout out to Gear-Falcon Sim Controls for the very awesome t-shirt. Don't mind the lint on that. You know, gotta love Huskies in the house. Let's go see this thing in action. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do here, now that we're at the desk, is talk about how to set up the controls. Now, all the access assignments are very easy to control. I use spad.next. You guys know if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, I do not like the in-game GUI, so we're just going to pretend like that doesn't exist. But you can do the same thing inside a Microsoft Flight Simulator or any other simulator that you choose for that matter. This is not restricted to Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's not restricted to X-Plane or P3D. You can use it with any of your flight simulation controls. DCS if you want to get crazy with it. So anyway, what we're going to do for SPAD in my case is I'm going to go to Controls. I'm going to find the Gear-Falcon FSP 182. And here we can go ahead and make sure everything's working. So here the top slider, you guys can see is the trim. There's our throttle, pitch, mixture, and flap 1, flap 2, or flap up and down. And I've already got these bound. So there's set flaps for increase, decrease for the down, the slider. There's our elevator trim on the axis. And obviously mixture, pitch, and prop. Now these are very easy to set, guys. For the axis, you're simply going to click the axis, go to add event, standard access, select the axis you want it to be. So in this case, I believe it's throttle. So we're going to do throttle without reverser. Set the number of engines that you want this throttle to be able to control. I set it for 2 because there are some general aviation aircraft that are twin prop that I would like to use this for. So I turned engine 1 and engine 2 on. Set full thrust as we've done here. Hit set. Pull it back to your desired idle position. Hit set again, and then hit OK. Now I've already done this, so I'm going to hit cancel. And it'd be the same thing for pitch and, for pitch and your mixture And the same thing for the elevator trim. Even the trim, the same thing. Add event, standard access. If you go down here, you'll actually find it, elevator trim. And you do the same thing. So here, you would set your full up, so you just rotate it as far up as you can. There it goes. Once you max it out, okay, just hit set. Find your neutral position. So for that, I'm going to line up the white line that I showed you guys earlier in the video. You probably can't see it from this view. Right there, there's a line right here that meets the center detent, or center point, I should say. Hit set, and then obviously we would do the same thing for nose up. Or nose down, excuse me. So I've already got this all set up, so now we're ready to go into Microsoft Flight Simulator and go for a flight and check it out. We are using the Thrustmaster Warthog as my flight stick today, guys. I have so many products that I'm going to be reviewing over the next coming days. You guys want to stay really close to the channel. I'm super excited to announce the next set as well. So for today, to keep things easy for myself, to be quite honest, yes, I'm being selfish. I decided to leave the Alpha in the box today, and we're going to keep the Thrustmaster out, and we're just going to fly center stick and use our controls here. Just going to jump in our Mooney and go for a quick flight. The Mooney is obviously one of my favorite ones, you guys know, so we're just going to do that and take the controls out for a spin and see what they're like. All right, so now let's go ahead and see them in action. So we're just going to do a couple of comparisons here. Now the prop pitch I've noticed has about 1/8 of an inch of dead zone. And I mean, that's really not a problem, but it's just that one little spot where it doesn't do anything. But then from there on out, it is 1-to-1. I'm trying not to pull it back too far. I don't want to stall the engine. But I mean, you can really fine tune it very nicely. I'm really appreciative of that. Mixture, again, just right on par. Checking the trim a little bit. And you can see on the trim gauge, which is right here, for those of you who aren't watching, it's a very nice, smooth transaction. Everything's, I mean, it's 1-to-1. It's perfect. Like if I jiggle it quickly, just watch what it's doing there on that gauge. It's shaking just as much as I'm shaking it here. That is really impressive. I'm really happy about that. All right, so now let's go for a flight. I'm just going to sort of, the screens are going to be a little on the weird side because I really want you guys to be able to see the throttle controls and the response on everything more than my incredibly terrible flying. So it's not going to be the best flying. Parking brake. Oh, there we go. And you guys get to see my big, nasty Italian feet. All right. This is really weird. I cannot remember the last time I took off with the stick on the left hand. All right. So I think I should be trimmed for altitude. Barometric pressure set. Let's get her rolling. It's a little weird because of this angle. I'm getting that glare off the windshield, so it's kind of hard to see. Helps when you go to full throttle, right? It's really weird flying with the left hand with the stick like this. We're going to get that gear up. Ah, I'm not clicked in the sim. There we go. Okay. Figured you guys might appreciate some audio, so I had to fix that. Alright, so now we're airborne. I'm not sure how the flaps got all the way down. Working perfectly. Start pulling some prop back. Wherever we are, the wind is just terrible. This is very, very nice. I am very impressed. And because it's an axis, if you guys find that, for example, the trim axis is actually a little high on the response. So we could always dumb down the sensitivity a little bit, and that's one of the greatest parts about it being an axis, is it gives you even greater control than just using a button somewhere. You know, essentially, so for example, like with the, I think even the Bravo throttle quadrant, it's been a while, so I want to say that it's been a while, but I do not think the trim wheel is an axis. I don't think it is. I think it's a trigger of a button both up and down. So you lose that ability to really fine tune the axis if you want, where with an actual axis like this, and it has, I believe, 3 times full resolution before the wheel will actually stop, which really makes things a bit different, and gives you a lot more control to configure in a way that you'll enjoy. Catching us starting to climb already, or not dive down, excuse me, so pitch that nose up a little bit. And wherever we are, like I said, it is a bumpy day. This is very, very nice. I'm very impressed with this. I think the quality of the craftsmanship is right on par. The response of the controls, honestly, I expected to be a bit sloppier. But just because of the nature of the type of sensors that it's using. But this is great. I am very pleasantly surprised. This is fantastic. I think my only complaint would be the mount. It seems to be, because it is a center point going right through the center of the throttle base, it's off center. So if I like a lot of tension in my throttles, I like to be able to just really fine tune it. And what I have found is, a couple times since we've been here, is as you push on it, I can feel it wanting to move this way. I think my microphone stand is actually what's preventing it from tweaking a bit, but it definitely wants to turn. So I think my only critique would be, you need something more here, maybe up here in line with this, to prevent it from being able to oscillate one direction or the other. But other than that, I think this is spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Very, very well done. I'm very, very pleased with this. I like the connection methods. Now, the things that I want to say is, like we talked about earlier, much of the design is going to be changing in the later releases. There's quite a few things that he's working on, the developer is working on with this. So keep that in mind. I am only speaking to the product that I have here. There are quite a few things that it sounds like that are in the works for later releases. But I am very, very pleased with this. I'm very, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I am thoroughly impressed with the work that's been done. I really enjoy the build. The material feels absolutely fantastic. It looks very pleasing to the eye. It matches that general aviation feel. I think one of my only other critiques that I'm not crazy about is the flap switch feels a bit flimsy. But I can tell that it's 3D printed, so obviously that's something you have to take into consideration. But again, that's me being nitpicky, and it's who I am. I'm trying to be completely fair. I think one of my greater talking points is, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that it can be mounted both above and below desk. The fact that you have the mounting spots for either left or right side, depending on what you want to do, or above or below on your desk. So the mounting system was very well thought out. Again, just that minor critique about putting something, maybe making this a little wider so it can't oscillate. But I mean, again, that's me pushing it. I'm sure there are many ways that we can come up with it. I just don't want to over tighten this and break the plastic. I mean, it is plastic, so I'm taking that into consideration as I'm sitting here doing this. But I am really, really, really happy with this. Very thoroughly impressed. I love the response of the trim wheel. Everything seems to be priced in the right spot. I think it's a very nice addition. The configuration and setup was beautiful. There is a non-DIY model coming, so you don't have to put it together yourself. I didn't mind the installation process. I thought that was just about as simple could be. You got 3 screws that we put in here, guys. So I mean, not like that was a big deal, at least for me. You know, you need 1 screwdriver and 3 screws that you got to put into it. It does also, as I mentioned earlier, comes with a spacer in case you need to increase the distance between the base and the top, or the base and the top, excuse me. Right? I think that's where that went. You guys have to quote me on that. Like I said, I didn't need it, so I didn't bother trying to install it. But I really enjoy this. I really enjoy this. And I'm very, very grateful that I had the opportunity to review such a very awesome product. So thank you again, Gear-Falcon Sims, for or Sim Controls for giving me the opportunity to review your product. I think this was an absolutely spectacular device, and I think the price point is perfect for the quality that you guys are getting. 129 US dollars. That is actually really, really nice for something like this. You guys do some research if you guys have any doubts about that on what flight sim controls cost these days. For the quality that you're getting, the customization options, the installation options, they're just, and the simplicity of the build, absolutely within a great price point. I'm very impressed with the price point of a product like this. So again, guys, you guys know me. You get it in the raw with me. So this is definitely a good one. This is definitely a keeper. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy. Stay tuned to the channel. We have a ton of products to review, as I've stated quite a few times, coming up in the next few days. I guarantee they get far more intense, and it's going to be awesome. I don't want to say any more than that yet, but it's going to be awesome. We got some really cool stuff. So as always, guys, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.